Hello, everyone. This is 17.2 America's Role Escalates. Lyndon B. Johnson, our primary source for 17.2, said, "We are not about to send American boys 9 or 10,000 miles away from home to do what Asian boys ought to be doing for themselves." Well, it turned out that was actually what we were doing. So let's look at the escalation of American forces, especially in Vietnam during this time. As the number of American soldiers in Vietnam increased, so did the number of attacks against them. And this led to more and more troops being poured into Vietnam. America was very effective at taking out North Vietnam with bombing runs. However, that didn't stop the Viet Cong from fighting. The Viet Cong, the North Vietnamese, were very good at guerrilla warfare. Now, thanks to Robert McNamara and General William Westmoreland, Lyndon Johnson decided that we were going to put more and more Americans into this fight. And we are going to put Americans on the ground to fight alongside South Vietnamese soldiers. Here is General William Westmoreland, who said, "The military doesn't start wars, politicians start wars." Now, American fighters dropped some really nasty stuff like napalm, which is jellied gasoline, and it can stick to you and burn you after it blows up. We also dropped Agent Orange, which was a plant killer to defoliate North Vietnam, and it ended up that it turned out to be incredibly toxic and cancerous. The Viet Cong fought back using guerrilla tactics. Same sort of stuff that we used against the British in the American Revolution. They would attack at night, they would set booby traps, they would have, underground bases, they would attack, and then they would just disappear into the jungle. By the end of Johnson's time in office, there were over 500,000 Americans in Vietnam and over 30,000 killed. America was killing lots of the North Vietnamese, but we were not winning their hearts and minds. We were winning battles, but we were not winning their devotion. So here's what napalm looks like going off. It's nasty stuff. Now let's look at patriotism, heroism, and sinking morale during this time. As the war continued, and for a lot of soldiers, it seemed like they weren't exactly sure what we were doing there. We weren't trying to conquer North Vietnam because that might start a World War III. We were just in a defensive position around South Vietnam. And the Viet Cong were fighting a very successful guerrilla war against us, not hanging around for big fights, instead using only small skirmishes and then killing some Americans and then melting away. At first, many men and women, and there were some women, about 10,000 women went to Vietnam, usually non-military capacity, or at least non-military fighting capacity. Some went to the conflict out of patriotism. They believed that they were doing the right thing. They were defending American values or protecting American values overseas. Some saw this as a fight to end communism. However, as the war went on, this started to lose its purpose a little bit. And so we see here are some American troops landing in Vietnam. And so we see doubt on the home front and overseas as well. Throughout the whole war, Johnson's White House kept saying, we're about to win, we're about to win. The end is right around the corner, which did not mesh with news coming out of Vietnam. So the idea was like, we're hearing one thing from reporters reporting live from Vietnam and then another thing from the White House. People started to call this the credibility gap, that what was said by reporters and what was said by the White House were two different things. We also see that the war also got rid of a lot of Lyndon Johnson's plans for rebuilding America with the Great Society. And as the war went on, the anti-war movement continued to grow, spurred on by the body count, the lack of progress, and the lack of a clear goal in Vietnam. So here is the famous journalist Walter Cronkite reporting from Vietnam, and at the end of his report, he barely ever was one to tell people what he thought. He just reported on the news. But he went to Vietnam and said, "It seems that we're not winning over there, and we just need to surrender." Or not, if not surrender, at least, come to terms. And after he said that, LBJ allegedly said, "If I lost Cronkite, then I've lost America."